Hi everyone, this is Rohit from Lifestyle Mastery, and I'm excited to have Joe Lewin, who's the CEO of Foundy, which is the UK's leading platform to buy and sell a business, offering end-to-end acquisition support for business owners and access to a regular, profitable deal flow for buyers. Welcome to the show, JP.
Thank you for having me, Rohit. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. So, you have an interesting journey. You sold a startup before, but how did you get into this crazy world of startups?
Great. Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you built a vast network. So I'm really pleased that you got in touch, and yeah, hopefully I can provide some value to your community of listeners. I got into startups through various ways, really, but always had a knack for problem solving, and kind of adopted quite a unique perspective on automating and streamlining antiquated problems for all sorts of market opportunities. And first business was, I had a problem with getting to work. It took an hour on the bus, so I thought this was incredibly inefficient. And it was like an hour just to go 3 miles. So started with an electric scooter and bike company, and scaled that, sold that company, and then it started again with Foundy's end-to-end M&A platform, modernizing the acquisition process. But yeah, ultimately, I think I'm always looking at problems as opportunities in the big bad world, and can do so through technology.
Interesting. So you built and sold Zwing. So what was the experience? Did you really want to sell your baby, or was it planned through that you wanted to start something and then sell it off after a few years?
I think in nowadays, most entrepreneurs, especially those in the SaaS space, will likely say that they don't have a plan to pass their software business down to their grandkids. Right. Often that was always the case with more traditional brick and mortar businesses, but nowadays it's build to sell. And yeah, I am willing to admit that. I think my investors would probably hope that as well, that there's an eventual exit event with a reasonable time horizon as well. So yeah, the plan was always to build a business, deliver value, and in turn generate some nice revenues, and hopefully with that attract buyer interest. And we did. I think we had 7 different buyers put in initial offers. We proceeded with a few, and then sold the business eventually. And then going through that archaic process with, truthfully, was not fun, and nor can I glamorize it by any means. It was stressful, expensive, opaque, and yeah, running the business in parallel was difficult. So yeah, but it created the foundations of Foundy. So yeah.
Got it. And it's interesting that you said that you wanted to build to sell, and I read it on Twitter somewhere, like startups are not bought, they're sold. So does the founder need to make an effort to really syndicate the startup to a lot of M&A buyers? What was your strategy when you had 7 different buyers? Did you actively pursue them, or did they come on their own?
Yeah, cool. So the M&A process initially started by a buyer. It was a competitor actually that reached out and expressed interest in buying our company, and that day was really exciting, because to think that we had built a business that had produced enough value to warrant the effort and resources from another company to come in and buy us, that was in itself really fulfilling. And of course, you read about in the news about big exits, and it was at least initially it was like a dream happening under my nose. But yeah, what followed after was incredibly inefficient. But yeah, we had one buyer start, and then get in touch, and then we thought, well, where do we start? And then had to kind of look for advisory support. Then we had another competitor reach out, and eventually quite a few, and then we reached out to a few others, direct competitors. But truthfully, even from that experience alone, you do need to have as much engagement with buyers as possible, prospective buyers that is, in order to ensure that there's competitive tension to secure the best valuation possible for your company. I think, and I've spoken with hundreds of founders now over the last few years, learned a lot from them, and I shared my experiences too. In order to, one of the best ways to secure best price and potentially higher than the market average for EBITDA and revenue multiples is to ensure that there are lots of different buyers putting in offers, competing with one another, almost like an auction process, which is something that we built into our model at Foundry. So we can automate and streamline the process of matchmaking. So we have a dedicated buyer outreach campaign, for example, where we look at indirect competitors, direct competitors, horizontal, vertical suppliers, companies that have made acquisitions in the space before. It could be private equity firms. A lot of these companies are actually really hard to find, so we use lots of different market mapping tools. One of them is actually an AI-enabled tool that gives us deep insight into a sell-side client's market, and then we conduct an email outreach campaign. And truthfully, it can be into the hundreds of buyers, and we direct them specifically to that one seller listing. Now, I think that's important because you want to be able to generate as much interest in the seller as possible, and it's proven quite effective as well. So long answer there, but yes, you do need to contact or engage with as many possible relevant buyers for all your business as possible, and most equally as importantly, you've got to do so at the same time, because what you'll find is if you don't run the process in a parallel, uniform way, then you may find, oh, well, you'll deal with one buyer, you put all your eggs in that basket, and consequently they detect that you only have that one interested buyer, and consequently it suffers in your valuation. What you want to do is keep your eggs across multiple baskets and negotiate, have lots of different offers on the table, a bit like an investment round, have 5, 6, 10 term sheets possibly, and then you can proceed with the one where possible. At the last kind of minute, you want to go on like that because it just wastes time.
Interesting, and a lot of interesting nuggets that you share. But I was wondering, how do you source deals, and how did you get to decide what comes first? Did you start working on the buyers, or did you start working on getting deals on your platform?
Yeah, I mean, we're a two-sided marketplace, so it requires efforts on both sides. But what we have found is supply of sellers, particularly high quality, profitable businesses, ideally, attract buyers naturally. So as you begin to add more and more seller listings, particularly ones that cover a particular niche size and segment, you're going to attract a lot more, a higher quantity and quality of buyers. So yes, focusing on the sell side, bringing them to the platform, have a good product, absolutely. That's most important as the kind of foundation to get them to create an account in the first place, and then actually having the supply of good businesses. And fortunately, 70% of the businesses that we list are profitable. Some of them have some really impressive margins, which is good. And we're integrating more and more of them with our plug-in accounting and performance metric tools. So buyers can gain access to their kind of highlights of their financial performance, revenue, profit, customer churn, growth, etc. And these are kind of live metrics from Stripe, Google Analytics, Xero, QuickBooks, and things. So it just helps to attract buyers in that regard. But it's two-sided. But the benefit is that once we get the sellers the platform, we've got various advisory services which have proved popular, and then we undertake those dedicated outreach campaigns to find hyper-specific buyers for each individual sell-side client, rather than just doing a scattergun approach, trying to find buyers across the tech sector. It's getting the supply of sellers, listing them, getting them ready for an exit, data room, presentation, documents, and things. And then we reach out to a tailored list of buyers outside of Foundy's user base. Although we do have a lot of inbound signups from buyers. I think we have 5,500 buyers now. But on the outside, we've got access to hundreds of thousands of buyers, but specific ones for that particular seller. So that's worked really well. I think we're now at the crux of escape velocity of growth based on revenue and users and other key metrics in the last few months.
Interesting. And you talked about sellers. So how much time do you spend on due diligence, and how much time does it take for a company to exit on an average on Foundry marketplace?
Yeah, cool. So there's two questions there. So the due diligence process, our catchphrase is undertake due diligence in minutes rather than months. And we can do that through those integrated metric feeds. The sign-up process takes 15 minutes for sellers to upload all their key information, and they can go live once approved, of course, and then list in front of buyers. So we're trying to streamline that process even further. That there's even clever ways that we're looking into about streamlining the process of software due diligence, which is really interesting and definitely relevant for this modern age. What I found in our market research, not surprising, but there's a lot of traditional M&A consultants that use, like, when they're reviewing a startup's technology on behalf of a buy-side client, they'll go into the startup seller's office and meet with their tech team and just sit down with them and have like a questionnaire, and then they come back to the buy-side client who's probably paid about 20 grand to do due diligence on them, and they just kind of give the responses of these kind of questions on a paper form. I expect it's insane. Like to grade the quality of code, growth opportunity, product, people, processes, there's got to be better due diligence processes, and that's something that we're exploring at the moment, is helping buyers and probably investors actually to automate, streamline that process by plugging in a tool into the startup seller to grade and rate the quality of software. And it's complex, but I'd love to one day be able to attribute a strategic value to the code base and the product, etc. Because otherwise it's kind of very subjective with buyers of what they believe that the product to be worth. So there's that, and then we already have the financial and customer performance metric integrations. Again, that just takes 15 minutes, the whole thing. Second question was on the timeline to exit. Now, in the last two weeks, we've had confirmation of 2 deals go through, which in total, one took 25 days, another one took 5 weeks. So pretty quick, sub 5 weeks for those two. And then there's another one which is probably going to go through. It's a 600K deal, and that's probably going to be 4 or 5 weeks, might trickle over. From the first message when the seller they receive on the platform from buyer through to due diligence, legal documents, deal completion, and exit payout, 4 or 5 weeks, which is really exciting, particularly with now, because we've got other product features which we haven't deployed yet, which will streamline the process even further. For perspective, the average exit process easily takes 9 months, 12 months outside of like Foundy's platform, because it's very archaic. You've got the onboarding process, which probably takes a month or 2 with an advisor. You've got Excel documents to go back and forth via email on with these advisors and buyers, data rooms all over oh goodness me. And then lastly, you got the legal document process. And I tell you, this actually happened. I had to print out 300 pages for our share purchase agreement and various other documents. This was in August. And I had to have a friend with me to wet sign he had to be my witness, had to wet sign every page. I thought it may have been a joke, like the buyer had some sort of thing going on and it was like, oh, let's get into, I don't know why, I think it was a bit excessive. SBAs are often a lot shorter as well. So we found with Foundry, but yeah, it's just unbelievable. We had to scan all that back in and things. So yeah, that took a very long time. That's why, pretty passionate about modernizing, streamlining the process. I mean, if founders are selling a business, they're often running the company in parallel, and therefore they need to have a portal where they log in and can view, immediately gain insight into the current timeline of their exit deal. They don't want to have to email a broker, a tax advisor, a lawyer who's going to charge you £300-400 an hour just to open the email. The list goes on.
Interesting. And I was just wondering, are there more bootstrap founders or even venture-backed companies who are looking to get an exit, or do you focus on just bootstrap founders for now?
Yeah, great question. So there's a lot of combination. For now, I'd say the large majority of sellers that we work with are bootstrapped, or they may have angel investors, family, friends on. However, we do believe, because often their expectation of valuations are much more reasonable to a founder of a company that they've started a couple of years ago, a couple of employees, maybe founder owns 90% of the company usually. For them to receive £2 or £3 million, I mean, it's pretty life-changing stuff, right? Plus they've got a salary out of that and things. So it's pretty good. However, it's really interesting kind of the contrast when you work with VC-backed companies. And we've spoken with a lot of VCs, and they've introduced the portfolio companies, which has been helpful. And you speak to the founders, and they kind of have this. A lot of them, some are not like this, but they have this warped perception of their expectation of an exit valuation because of these kind of round after round, and it's kind of maybe revenues tapered off a little bit or something, and then they expect, oh well, we want to sell for 20 million, and then I said, well, what is the revenue at the moment? And then they may come back with $500,000 in revenue. It's just, well, unless they have a very innovative product and that there's and various other strategic value, which truthfully actually has quite a lot of value to some buyers, to be fair. It's difficult to get to these kind of very high valuations. I think the large majority of founders, particularly now in 2023, with this great reset across the tech sector, vast reset, I wouldn't actually say great, in valuations, people have come down to worth a little bit. I think it's more understandable, but it's interestingly, sellers that have raised large rounds in 2021, where the valuations were honestly like 50x on revenue, 100x sometimes, it's difficult for them to kind of bite the bullet and think, well, we can't sell for these kind of valuations. That it's changed, and unfortunately, as a founder, I don't think it's necessarily going to go up to the levels of 2021 again. Who knows? Possibly in AI. I know you see a lot of these companies raising pre-product, pre-revenue at 200 mil valuations. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy times for AI startups. But when you're talking about revenue multiples, would it be safe to say it's anywhere from 5 to 10 times of the revenue? Just wondering, what's the kind of multiples you're looking at now?
Yeah, so we've actually built a valuation calculator for this very purpose, because we get a lot of ad hoc requests from founders pondering what their potential exit valuation may be. Now, this is just a guide, and truthfully, we're well placed to maximize a start or any company's exit valuation, because our buyer network is SaaS focused. We have the process to streamline the process to give back some of the negotiation strength to founders. I digress. The revenue is actually more so on the EBITDA multiple, so it really varies. But public markets, was 12 to 15x on 12 trading month EBITDA, but depending on the business model for a SaaS, it can be anywhere between 5x to 10x. But that's purely from a financial performance standpoint. There's a lot of strategic value that can be captured in a business. But truthfully, learning from experience and speaking to a lot of founders now, to streamline that process so it's a lot more efficient and not dragged out, can help so much with a seller's ability to negotiate. It is a true art and science negotiation. Honestly, it's crazy how you can build a business over however many years, right, get to the point of exiting. You've built a great business, profitable, maybe a couple of million revenue, 5-to-1 ratio of profit, and you get to it, and suddenly the way you engage with buyers, or if you don't have a good broker or advisor, goodness, that it can do a lot of damage to the final exit valuation. Can bleed out a couple of 100,000 or maybe even millions, depending on the size of the business, on that final exit valuation, if the buyer can get upper hold in the negotiation position. And that is what Foundry is about. We're trying to empower founders with the tools, knowledge, and experience and buyer network to ideally sell the business on a self-serve basis, but we're here, instant message, booking a call, and our advisory services available at an instant as and when they need it. So, and most importantly, we're kind of tech sector SaaS focus as well. We're not doing brick and mortar businesses one day, which many advisors are, many small to medium-sized business advisors are, and then trying to attempt to sell a SaaS. No, we're focusing on the tech sector. That is our speciality.
Got it. Interesting. And do you also provide P&L summaries and make the buyers understand about the revenue, the churn rate? Do you help with that, or is it mostly self-serving for them?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So I mean, I'd love to kind of give some brief insight to those that are watching the video version of this. I'll speak over the whilst I'm explaining it, just to help us to visualize. But yeah, Foundy is fundamentally a self-serve platform, but we are there as and when additional support is needed, and that helps us to scale. It helps us to support more and more business sellers and buyers. So I'll quickly pull up. So yeah, it's we've built and streamlined our advisory services so that founders are given the tools that they need. So here's a little demo video. Feel free to go to foundry.com/advisory/sellers.
Sure.
And we goes down here. And we've tailored packages that are suitable for businesses of different sizes. And also, I challenge anyone to find another European company to lay out their pricing in this transparent way as we have. I respect that SaaS founders want they don't want pricing to be hidden, and they want it laid out in a SaaS style manner. And that is what we've done to appeal to founders, modern entrepreneurs, I should say. So relative to business size. So if you're doing 100K to 500K revenue, there's lower pricing and slightly tailored packages. So we've got a dedicated buyer outreach campaign, as described earlier. We've got an information memorandum and evaluation report. And then we've got the essentials bundle for Exit. So yeah, it's just £1,970. If you would go to a traditional advisor, you're going to get locked into a 12-month contract of exclusivity. You're going to have to pay about 3 or 4 times that in upfront fees. Then you've got a monthly retainer on top. Then you're paying a 5 or 6% success fee or more. And you'll get halfway through the process of working with them and realize, damn, that their buyer network is not really relevant to your business, and you're stuck in a rut then. So we got a lot of founders coming to us from traditional advisory firms, even some of the biggest firms here in the UK and elsewhere in the US and Europe. Either they've done a lot of research already and determined that we're really the first kind of tech modern M&A platform that they found, compared to some of the websites that they've seen of more traditional advisors, which, to be truthful, some of them look like they were made in the 1990s using Microsoft Paint. But look, they're very well established, and they've got fantastic relationships, of course. But I think specifically for modern entrepreneurs that expect a modern tech service to sell the business that they've spent years building, I think that's what we've been focused on delivering through our advisory, but also our end-to-end marketplace as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing the pricing. I think it's pretty transparent. And I was wondering, do you also have like a funding platform where you can help them, where you can fund part of it and help them get onto a deal where they could be like a monthly payoff system? I was just wondering, are you looking into that sort of a model
to do investment raising?
Yes, for the buyer who would want to make a 20% upfront payment, but then would want to make the rest of the payment from the monthly profits back to the seller.
Oh, like seller finance.
Seller finance.
Finance. Yeah. Yes. So we have a few lending partners that can support with that. Bupos are fantastic. Uncapped are also very good. That can support with financing of that kind. We'll be promoting more about these services and others very soon, because I think a lot of buyers want to be able to create automate the creation of lending tools to buy businesses, get approved by the business, and get that agreed with the seller. Because there's so many different steps within M&A deal cycle, and different advisors, lawyers, tax advisors, accountants, brokers, and the like, it can get quite long-winded and complex, and consequently deals can break down, I guess, through the traditional routes. Sometimes we're trying to automate it, bring it all into one platform so that it's as streamlined as possible. So there's kind of a lot fewer hurdles for communication breakdown, including the financing side of the platform as well.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I've been aware about Constellation software. I think they're pretty big, but I think they're focused, I think, on a couple of verticals, which is I think focusing on financial services and education. Are they in a similar industry as you are? Are they also like a marketplace, or are they more like a Berkshire Hathaway sort of a model where they acquire the company and run on their own?
Yeah, of course. So Constellation Software are probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, software aggregator.
Okay.
The biggest. And they actually own lots of other smaller software aggregators, which in turn own hundreds possibly of SaaS companies. So they're absolutely massive. I've been reading about them recently. I think it's an incredible journey they've had to get to where they are. So yeah, I guess the best way to describe it is probably the Berkshire Hathaway of SaaS companies.
Yeah. Got it. And especially for this year, did you see a lot of startup funding getting reduced and startups coming onto your platform to sell? Was it different from last year, or do you think a lot of startups are coming because of the funding rounds which are getting reduced?
Yeah. So the tech sector, especially the startup ecosystem, is in a completely different place compared to where it was in 2021. Even though the M&A industry has had a record year in 2021, I think it was like 300 billion plus in transaction value in the UK alone.
Yeah.
There is now a lot of demand, especially amongst smaller businesses, for exits, because no longer is it possible to raise money just with a pitch deck and a potential product. Instead, VCs and angels are very particular, very selective in order to mitigate risk. I think a lot of them have been burned on various investment opportunities, and I think their LPs are conscious about where they're putting money, and yeah, I respect that, rightfully so. And as such, startups that have operated these business models that are loss-making for years on end, and they have to raise round after round, there is a lot of them are in quite a bit of trouble. And again, Foundy is trying to find a way in which we can streamline that process, connect sellers to buyers through our marketplace. There's no cost if you just want to list for sale and speak with buyers. It's optional to use our advisory services, and then we can connect you to buyers, and then if there's a small success fee at the end. But there's completely changed the market conditions. A lot more founders are looking to sell. There's been record highs on the buy side in terms of dry powder amongst private equity firms, and a lot of recently funded companies are going on an acquisition spree. They've raised seed, Series A to Series E funding round, let's say, and they're going out and buying smaller competitors, companies in verticals and horizontal markets, even suppliers that they have a good product, a good team, and that they want to just acquire. So yeah, there is a lot of interesting activity happening at the moment, but particularly amongst businesses doing less than 10 million in revenue, because they're quick bolt-on acquisitions, and we're democratizing the process of exit. So it's been a relatively slow start as a whole to M&A in 2023, but there's a lot of interest, particularly in the second half.
Got interesting. And I want to talk about talent and hiring. And you've been running Zoomings earlier and now Foundy. What do you think is the biggest mistake founders make when they're looking to hire for sales roles? Because I've been into sales and revenue part of the business. So what's been your lesson there?
I think I think hiring is one of the most complex processes of any there's a lot in building a company: sales, marketing, legal, admin, everything. Hiring, managing, scaling a team is by all means one of the most complex aspects of that. So it takes a lot of time by all means to get it right, but to start with, learning from experience, I think I've hired 50 people across 2 companies, and we're going to hire a lot more people this year and next, I hope.
Right.
Laying the foundations from an early stage is really key. So we've built a page on, several pages on Notion about who we are, what we stand for, what we'd like to achieve, and we're really trying to make the company as inclusive and community oriented as possible. And that's helped a lot to attract some great team members that have joined the company. But I think, putting in the systems and the processes to start with, having the foundations in terms of what you're looking for, and then deliberating as to whether you should be using recruitment tools. I mean, some of them are extraordinarily expensive. However, they're, much to my delight, that there are ways of automating the hiring process. So Cord.co is a fantastic marketplace to find engineers, for example. It's a bit of manual work to go out and find and message, but there are thousands and thousands of great engineers, and you've got great profiles that goes through to LinkedIn, CVs, clickable links to go through to the websites they built. It's fantastic. Truthfully, it saves a lot of time and hassle. LinkedIn Recruiter is also very, very good. We've had a lot of success with that. So I recommend any founder looking to hire utilize some of these tools. I mean, we've used recruitment companies in the past. Some are good, some are not good, and learned a lot about the process. I mean, just the principle of getting sent loads and loads of CVs in different formats and spelling all over the place, and you can't click through to see which companies they worked at. It's just it's an absolute mess, to be frank. And I'm glad that there are platforms like Cord and some recruitment companies that have modernized that process and made it a bit more clean and systematic. Lay the foundations and automate, streamline the process as far as reasonably possible. But truthfully, I'd probably recommend to any founder, try and get, if you can afford it with the resources, although I would say it's a good allocation of resources, get an in-house talent partner to come in, and they can come into the office, get to know your brand, what you're looking for. You can get feedback on like search campaigns and things, rather than just getting sent loads of CVs ad hoc. It's a case of organizing the ATS system step by step on interviews, going through, and exactly where everyone is. It's a lot cleaner. But you can have a talent recruiter come in that even kind of 2-3 months for a fixed fee or a success fee, but works really well.
Very interesting. And I recently had Ozobo from Cutbox, who also got funding from Fuel Ventures, and I'm a fan of Fuel Ventures. They got some great exits, and they've a great portfolio company, especially Heroes, Outfund, and Paddle. Yeah. What's been your strategy to get a VC like Fuel Ventures on board, and what's been your funding strategy?
Yeah, sure. Fuel Ventures are a great marketplace investor here in the UK. One of the most active. In fact, they've got a vast community of entrepreneurs and got some great exits as well, particularly in our space. So they facilitated they're invested in early stage into a company called CapDesk and others that were acquired by the likes of Carter for it was a great return, I think, from them. So I mean, what's the process of getting investment, or what?
Yeah, I mean, how did you get Fuel Ventures on board, and what's your strategy for investing? Any lessons for founders who are looking to raise funding?
Okay. Yeah, and if anyone's interested, happy to share a strategy. I think I get messages every week about fundraising and tips and things. I used to try and do as many calls as possible, but now I've kind of just created a kind of helpful blog. So get in touch if you'd like some tips on that. I'm just learning a lot. I think we've probably done 4 funding rounds across the 2 companies, and just learn again how to streamline and automate as far as reasonably possible. You don't want to do too much, but what I would say is, cold outreach, you can get lucky, but it's so much, I don't know what the multiple will be, 10 times easier, better, more effective of getting warm introductions. Now, often it's quite hard finding people that can make those warm introductions. So what I would say is, first and foremost, get all of the foundations in place, the pitch deck, and get people to review it from top to bottom, spelling mistakes and the layout and the contents. Is it too? I had an issue of my pitch decks being a bit too wordy, and got some feedback on that. Go out, get as much feedback as possible, and iterate, and then build your Notion, build a kind of a small data room, Notion, Dropbox, or DocSend, for example. I use Trumpet, which is very good, founded by a fantastic entrepreneur named Nick Telson. And that's very good for sending out the presentation to prospective investors. You can put in a video there, you can put in a voice note, your pitch decks there in a PDF within this digital pod. You can put testimonials there. You can add another tab for financials. It's a great way to send out pitch decks and work out who's opened it, how long they've spent on the presentation deck. But yeah, but truthfully, get all of that in place. Then build a list of prospective investors, probably looking to build, it might sound like a big number, but at least 200 or more, truthfully, if not more, investors in a list, qualify them. There's great tools where you can go out and determine what shareholdings that they have. Are they active? Have they invested in the last 9 months or 12 months? Have they invested in companies in very similar spaces to you? Ideally not competitors, but in parallel. If it's a B2B fintech that you run, or specifically a payments platform, well, are there any investors within your country? Or it doesn't really matter, to be honest, but I think it's easier sometimes to convert people that are kind of down the road. And then build a kind of a long list of them. What I try and aim for is, I use a good tool to work out who are the investors within the UK that have invested in a minimum or have a minimum of 8 active shareholdings in B2B SaaS fintech. They've invested in the last 9 months. They have a minimum net worth with those shareholdings of 1.5 million. Show me that list or something. And then you get like 1,200 responses. And then from there, you can filter down, qualify emails and things. Just make it super, super simple and ready for yourself. Then go to a website such as bridgeapp.com or something, BRDG. And from there, you'll be able to access, there's lots of tools like this, but it's a great networking tool. You want to simplify the introduction process because people are busy. Like when you go to someone who's well connected, like they don't have much time. So I've learned. And what you want to do is make their life as easy as possible. Even give them a little incentive if you like. Some of them are, a lot of founders understand that they don't ask for like referral fees or something, but I'm sure there's a little incentive that you can do, come up with something. Might be like a 20 quid now, I don't know. There's something, I don't know. And then say to them, look, I know this best on LinkedIn or whoever, look at your first connections versus the list of people that you want to be introduced to, work out who the first degree connections are. Ideally, if you're friends with them, please may it be possible to be introduced to this person. I've got an email summary ready to go. I've got a pitch deck, video, financials ready to go. All you have to do is forward it on. Is that okay? And they're almost always like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Rather than doing the opposite, building the list and then trying to do cold outreach with some scrappy email with a pitch deck that was made in Microsoft Paint. And then the whole thing backfires. And then you ruin that first impression with that prospective investor. That was a very drawn out answer to your question, but hopefully that's right. If you are doing cold outreach though, what I would say is, again, this is in this little blog that I've written, try a multi-stage, like a 3-stage email sequence. keep it under 200 words, have that digital link to your pod within that, and that will direct to kind of the Trumpet, send Trumpet, for example, where you can have the pitch deck. And yeah, 3-stage, make it personal, take the time to invest in personalization. Yeah, I could go on, to be honest, but I quite like kind of helping or hopefully giving some valued advice, because I know how long-winded raising money is for a business. It's not that fun. You just want to focus on the product, the business, your team, and your customers and things. You don't want to be raising money, right? But yeah, hopefully that's of value. Sorry, next question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This was wonderful. I was busy making notes, and I didn't know about Bridge. Not app. I'm going to put that in the show notes, and I think warm introductions are really the key. But yeah, no, thanks for sharing this. We'll put all the links on the show notes, and I quickly want to do the top 3. What's your favorite business book?
Oh, there's a few. 0 to 1's quite good.
Yeah.
Buy then build is quite good if you're looking to, rather than start a company from scratch. Because truthfully, you're going to have to deal with a lot of legal admin complexities and cold start problems and the like. I definitely recommend looking to acquire a business, ideally a profitable software business. That build, that book is actually quite good. Gives you some insight into what it takes, what to look for when buying a business. Yep.
Got it.
Truthfully, Rohit, I got to the point now where there's actually such valuable content on like people's carousels on LinkedIn, like really actionable bites of, Dan Murray Serta's got a really good one, and a few others that I've noticed recently. And Sahil as well. There's some fantastic bite-sized actionable points, and that's why I quite like learning. If I'm ever reading something, unlike my sisters who love fictional books and the like, and I don't know, I have to be watching a documentary, or I have to be reading something that is, I have to draw like knowledge from, actionable takeaways and things, because otherwise I feel like I'm not constantly learning. By the way, nothing against fictional stories. I love a bit of sitcom myself, but there we are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Twitter and LinkedIn, you'll find a lot of people who can give you a lot of actionable things to think over. But we'll definitely put that in the show notes. And if you could go back in time when you started Foundy, what is the one thing you would have focused on or done anything differently, if you could?
Yeah, sure. I think truthfully, what I would have loved to have done is actually hired a founder associate from an early stage. We have someone that joined recently, Tej. He's fantastic, truthfully, and he's acted as kind of a generalist, operations, finance, marketing, sales, legal, admin, and we just collaborate and brainstorm ideas, strategy, objectives, and the like from an early stage. That's been really helpful. Gabrielle as well in marketing, having again, another generalist from an early stage is really key. Anything that she puts her mind to, she's very actionable, organized, articulate with decision making and research. So having these key generalists from a very early stage, it's just so valuable, because otherwise it's a lot of the pressures on the founder to make all of the decisions, and having switched on people with experience that can support with that process is incredibly valued. So getting generalists on from an early stage that are know their stuff.
Got it. And what's your favorite online tools? Example: Gmail, Slack, Zoom.
What's my favorite tool, like a SaaS tool? Or...
Yeah, any tool other than Foundy.
Truthfully, Slack I probably prefer to Foundy, to be honest. It is unbelievable. It's so good. We use Gmail. There's loads. There's HubSpot's fantastic as well. Trumpet's awesome. I don't know. I love SaaS tools. They're so good. I mean, their websites look so good. You go onto it, you've got the video and the big text. And it's such this kind of uniform way of laying out things. Lots of cool AI tools with that just make life so much easier. Lavender AI has come out with a new sales tool. Of course, Gong's quite good. We're looking at that at the moment. We're not users yet. But it's for me, and I was saying this to my colleague earlier today, it's like when you see a new tool, well, you've got to be, I don't want to be signing up to random things, just adding costs. But if you have a problem and you've worked out, okay, that's inefficient, that can be automated, templated, streamlined. I mean, sorry, I've said that a million times this call, but it's important to be able to iron out inefficiencies if you're looking to scale. When you find this solution that to the problem, it's such an amazing feeling. For example, at the moment, we've got quite a sophisticated CRM tool, pipeline and strategy using HubSpot, but LinkedIn wasn't integrated. So we're like using LinkedIn a lot for generating leads and getting new users to the platform, but it's kind of separate. So everyone's accounts were separate. It wasn't as coordinated as it should be in order to scale effectively. And we found an AI tool which not only plugs in to the HubSpot. It's always so satisfying when you see you've got third-party API and you just press one button, in it goes. And then, it does everything like automation and personalization and things. It's fantastic. Of course, you want to make sure that works because it can backfire. But it's always fun.
What's the name of the tool?
Hey Reach, I believe. We haven't properly. I've been using it a little bit myself, but I think I might invite the rest of the team. I think it's really interesting in terms of a SaaS case study. They made 200K in 2 months. I think they teamed up with AppSumo. It's actually worth having a read about how they've scaled, just from like a go-to-market growth strategy. They're growing very quickly.
So we'll put that in the show notes. And JP, what is the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Foundy?
Yeah, cool. Well, feel free to get in touch on LinkedIn. Happy to chat to anyone, regardless of which role you're in at a company, or it doesn't have to be a SaaS company necessarily. But if you're just looking for some ad hoc help, there's no cost to it. I truthfully, I actually find it quite fun and fulfilling to help people meet people and learn about all that they've built. So yeah, LinkedIn, JP Lewin, email joe@foundy.com. Feel free to get in touch, and happy to help.
No, this was great fun. Thank you so much for taking our time speaking to us. I really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Rohit. I really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah.